Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Good Tuesday morning, Amy Jacobson here. John Anthony in for Dan Proft, who will be back after he's done hitting the little white ball down the fairway, which is always fun. And much to my surprise, when you filled in on Monday, I thought you were joking when you were talking about Republicans who voted for House Bill 2350 that requires insurance coverage for cervical exams for males, which means pap smears for males, and prostate exams for females.
Correct.
So are you telling me I got me a prostate?
Well,
is that what I'm hearing, John Anthony?
Listen. I would love to have known what the legislative intent of the bill was. You know, that's one of the questions that you posed on the House floor. What's the legislative intent of the bill? I would love to have heard what that conversation was as it pertained to the legislative intent. Because what I think it's saying and what it appears to say, what I think it's saying is, let's say you're transitioning, but you still have a, woman part.
We call it the woohoo.
What you call yourself, because remember, we changed the name, the gender specific. You can, whatever you identify as, that type of stuff. So if you're still a woman with a vagina, woohoo.
That's fine. That's a body part.
You can have a pap smear. If you're a male who's transitioning to a female, you can have a prostate exam.
Okay.
But what stops Amy Jacobson for going in there and saying, I want a prostate exam? That's what I want to know. What was the debate like when this bill was being debated in committee and on the floor?
Well, Democratic State Rep Kelly Cassidy is the one who introduced this House bill.
Yeah.
She's the one with pink hair.
Kelly has pink hair now?
The one picture that I saw, she had pink hair.
I didn't know Kelly had pink hair.
I know why women over 20 or even young ladies dye their hair pink or blue or purple, whatever. She's the one who authored this. Oh. And guess who went along with it?
Who?
Illinois House Republican Minority Leader Tony McCombie.
Okay.
Voted in favor of this.
I know Jeff Keicher did. I don't know who the third person was.
Well, with more on this, let's welcome to the program State Rep Chris Miller, husband of Mary Miller, by the way, from the 101st District. Good morning, Mr. Miller. How are you?
Well, good morning, everybody. It's great to hear your guys' voice the first thing in the morning. Talk about a very interesting topic.
So why in the world, if Tony McCombie, who, again, is the House Republican Minority Leader, why in the world would she vote in favor of this?
Well, I'm not exactly sure, but anytime that Kelly Cassidy introduces the bill, red flags and alarm bells should go off in your brain. It made it necessitated. I mean, for us, it was very clear that we needed to take a close look at this bill, because on the surface, it looks fine to have pap smears and cervical exams for cancer screening, which was great, but then they took out the gender-specific language, and then that sent off alarm bells. And I think another interesting fun fact is I believe that that all the senators voted no in the Republican side of the aisle, and it's not like the Senate is a bastion of conservatism, and then 35 out of 40 Republicans voted no also, and I would have thought that would have at least put everybody on notice that maybe this isn't something that Republicans should be voting for.
Wow. So I don't know if you heard what I was saying right before. What was the legislative intent? What was the debate on the floor? So if, let's say, John Anthony, a male, wanted to go in and get a pap smear, is there language in the bill that says I can or can't?
No, I think that the legislative intent for the radical left was to appease the transgender crowd, because it took away the gender-specific language and replaced it with something that was ambiguous. And and I'm looking here at my notes, but it deleted the gender-specific language. They are intentionally getting rid of the words male and female when it relates to anatomy and biology. In this case, the medical procedures can only be performed on people with certain anatomy. And so typically in Springfield, there's only one reason why you make things gender neutral, and that's to appease a certain group of people.
Sounds like a money grab. It sounds like, because...
Well,
go ahead.
That's true also. It's typical in the old cliche, follow the money and you find the answers. And I know that, that this is, there is money to be made in the medical business, and there's also money to be made from lobbyists. And so if you, our good friend Tom DeVore's been peeling back some of the layers of the onion and exposing what really went on, and so that's kind of an interesting read also.
Representative, were there any fiscal notes filed on this bill? What will be the cost associated with this? Do you know, is there a number there?
I'm not aware of that aspect of it, and I'm not sure if there was any fiscal notes filed or not. I'm not sure.
Well, you look at Tony McCombie, and since the pandemic in 2020, she's accepted campaign donations from the National Education Association. Remember, they endorsed J.B. Pritzker and Kwame Raoul. And then she helped write the controversial education standards that allow teachers to instruct children about gender identity, sexual orientation, hormone blockers, gender expression. And she also promoted mandates during the pandemic. Tony McCombie.
Oh.
So how in the world is she the Republican House Minority Leader?
There's some people that are sold out and are compromised is the only answer that I have. I know that it's a real difficult thing to move our party forward when you have leadership that do things like this. It gives us a black eye, and it's pretty hard to move forward. And I think part of it is that people in leadership have to have vision. I think that it's important to have a true north. I know I'm the chairman of the Illinois Freedom Caucus, and I know that we're trying to call the Republican Party back to the roots that it was established in. And I know that there are documents to define who we are, and there's 3 defining documents that motivate me as far as the legislator on how I'm going to vote. And the first thing is the Word of God, the second thing is the Constitution, and the third thing is the Republican Party platform. And those are my 3 litmus tests on how I'm going to vote. And I think that whenever you get off in the weeds and you make bad votes like this, it's because you don't have a true north and you have you can't see the net effect on this. And I think that one of the problems that these people have is they have a real pride problem, and if they would have just admitted and said, "Hey, I made a bad vote. I didn't see all of the details on this," and just said if I had to do over again, I would vote differently. But they haven't been able to do that. They want to excuse and blame and get mad and throw a fit rather than just owning it. If they just owned this, it would go away in a 24-hour news cycle. But the way they've tried to double down and emotionally manipulate people and get mad and throw a fit, it's just exacerbated the problem.
Yeah. Before I get to my next question, I'll say this about Kelly Cassidy. A lot of people get mad at a lot of the stuff that she introduces. She's just doing what her constituents, because she has a huge LGBTQTI, whatever it is now.
Plus.
Right.
Don't forget the plus.
Right,
yes.
the plus. But she represents her district, and I wish more Republicans were willing to do what she does as it relates to representing her district. If more Republicans did that, we can win back the state. But I want to talk about. I hear there's a firearms domestic violence bill. There's one in the Senate Bill 2633 and House Bill 4469. My good friend Eddie Sullivan from the Illinois State Rifle Association came on. Now they're trying to basically remove due process as it relates to a domestic violence incident without a person giving their side of the story. I know it's in. I see it's been re-referred to the Rules Committee, but that can be brought up even right now during the lame duck session. Is that something that's on the Illinois Freedom Caucus radar?
Yeah, I mean, we've had conversations about that, and ultimately the radical Democrats' goal is they want to disarm the American citizens, and we're staunch believers in the Second Amendment, and it's one of those things that we're never going to try to throttle back on people's right to keep and bear arms. And these people are relentless. But here's their goal in the end is they want gun confiscation. And once that's over, then there's nothing to keep them from taking full control of our state and our country.
What does the future, Tony McCumbie's future, look like? In regards as the House Republican Minority Leader?
I don't really know. I mean, I think that she creates a lot of her own problems, and I know that the problem that we have is the Illinois Freedom Caucus. We're fighting the battle on two fronts. We fight the Democrats, and we also fight the left-leaning wing of the Republican Party, and they're constantly trying to kneecap us and gaslight us and badmouth us. And it's really frustrating. So we've just taken the posture that we're going to do our own thing, and we're going to provide leadership and direction and be the home of truth, logic, and common sense. And we have a town hall every Tuesday night and talk about current events and current issues and try to put the conservative message out there to let people know that there are true conservatives in the House of Representatives, and we're fighting for the conservative principles that make America America and could have the potential to make Illinois great again if people would just listen. And because we're fighting for individual liberty, limited government, the rule of law, fiscal responsibility, fair markets, the sanctity of life, and peace through strength. Those are all things that are kitchen table issues and that people should be interested in. Some things that are missing in our conversation right now in the lame duck session is there's been nothing said about inflation that's out of control, that's killing everyday working families. There's nothing been said about illegal immigration, sky-high property taxes, the failing public schools, the budget deficit, the rise in crime and ethics reform. I mean, it's been crickets on every issue that impacts the everyday working family quality of life. And since the radical Democrats have been in control, I mean, all of the quality of life issues have gotten worse for everyday working families, and they made it harder and harder for us to just pay our bills and to thrive in the state of Illinois. And as a result of that, people are voting with their feet. I mean, Illinois is broke, and people are leaving, and the Democrats want to gaslight, and even some of the leadership in the Republican Party want to pretend like that we really don't have a problem. And it's all been created by bad public policy.
Amen.
Representative, what's the way forward for Illinois Republicans? I mean, as we're looking, what's this? Which legislative body would this be? The 100 and what for Illinois? 105th, 104th legislative body?
I'm not sure.
Right.
I'd have to.
What should
it's one more than what it was last year.
There you go.
What should we be concerned about? I mean, as you look the agenda of Speaker Welch and Senate President Don Harmon, what should the people be concerned about? What's getting ready to happen as we start a new session?
Well, I think that people are starting to wake up, and because of bad public policy, I mean, it's starting to affect our, everyday working family's pocketbook, and all these, the rise of inflation, but going to the grocery store and buying food, paying your electric bill, paying your sky property taxes, and the list goes on and on. The price for a dozen eggs, and and all this has been created by the radical Democrats' bad public policy. And I think that everyday people are starting to wake up and pay attention, because the Democrats have been in charge forever, and the reason why Illinois is in such dire circumstances is because of their policies. But I think that people are finally starting to wake up and see that happening in real time. And so it's important that we have dynamic leadership, and I think that that's been part of the problem. Everything rises and falls in leadership, and the Democrats and part of the Republican Party seem like they're more interested in social engineering than they are really paying attention to get our fiscal house in order, because we're in trouble. I mean, J.B. Pritzker's increased our budget by almost $15 billion since he's been in office, and we've been bleeding population, we've been bleeding jobs, we've been bleeding opportunity, and people are leaving as a result. They just can't afford to live in Illinois anymore, and just the radical green agenda, and it's just these people have lost their mind and they have lost their ways, and it's time for the citizens of Illinois to wake up, because you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you're going to keep getting the same results, and the people that are in charge are not going to fix anything. They have no appetite for fixing anything. And so it's important to change leadership and change the direction of the state of Illinois.
Speaking of leadership, I was wondering if, this might be inside baseball, but what's going on in Speaker Welch's office? I mean, he's had, 3 chiefs of staff, 3 chief counsels, 4 issue directors resign, 2 research directors, and 4 executive directors resign. Is there anything you could tell us about that?
What? Well, I know that what you just said is true, and I actually talked about it on a 2-minute video yesterday morning, because the train never runs on time, and we could be 30 minutes late, we could be an hour late. It's hard to imagine, but I know that just since we've been in session, they called us in for a lame duck session, which is it was created to deal with emergencies. Saturday, and we're in 20 minutes. Sunday, we're in 30 minutes. Yesterday morning, we're in about 45 minutes.
Nothing's
and then
changed.
They went to caucus, which they were in almost the rest of the day, and they just jacked around. We've had a handful of committees, a few points of personal privilege, a couple of resolutions, and then we're wondering about the upper level staffers either quitting or getting fired. And so there's been not very much done that's really impacted. And we know that that Chris Welch's office is in absolute chaos just because of what you just mentioned, because all those people have been fired or quit. And so, and they advise and help keeping things running on time and accurately. But we could be 30 minutes late, an hour late. Sometimes even in the last session, we were 4 and 5 hours late. We could be called into session at noon and not start till 4 o'clock.
Wow.
That is maddening. That is just
unbelievable.
Representative,
such chaos.
I have a quick question from a caller. Are you willing to name these left-leaning Republicans? George Pearson, former Will County chairman. It's hard to vote and fight against them if we don't know who they all are.
Well, you got a pretty good glimpse of some of them just by who voted for this bill. But but you can look at their D2s and look at and see who people take money from, and the people that are taking money from the teachers union and the radical left and different things. You can pretty well decipher that on your own on who is. But I will say about 8 out of 10 of the McCombie's leadership team would probably fit that category.
Yes, and just so you all know, it's the 103rd General
103rd.
Assembly.
I know it was somewhere around there.
All right, State Rep Chris Miller, thank you so much out of the 101st District. We really appreciate your time this morning.
All right, thank
Tell the
you.
Congresswoman I want to get her on the show. Miss you guys, man.
Okay.
Thank you, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper. Hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Between the Consumer Price Index, inflation, and job reports, it feels like you need a PhD in economics to fully understand the economic news happening around us every day. That's why you need the Everyday Economics Podcast. Join host Chris Krug and economist